Hello guys, today we're going to be unboxing the MikroTik CSS326-24G-2S+RM. Geez, MikroTik, can you come up with better model names? Okay, so what this switch is going to be is this is going to be my management switch. What I mean by that is, say my Dell PowerEdges, they have an iDRAC, which is a management interface. They have a dedicated Ethernet port to where you can connect them to your management network. My HP ProLines have HP ILO for integrated lights out. And then any generic server, such as my pfSense router, which is going to be a 1U super micro server, has an IPMI port, network port, that allows you to manage it. These are all management interfaces. Now, yeah, I could use my main core switch and use VLANs, I'm saying, to segment out the management network. But I like physical isolation. I feel it's more secure and a better way to go about doing things. So what I'm going to do is this is going to be a switch that's going to have all the management devices connected to it, basically. So you can manage all my servers and stuff. And I'm going to use pfSense to route it and then do some firewalling so only my workstation can access the management network. So say somebody comes over, gets on the Wi-Fi, they do like a thing scan on their phone, something like that, they're not going to see my Dell PowerEdge iDRAC show up in the result because it's going to be on a different network and firewalled out. But anyway, I digress. So let's go ahead and unbox this. We're going to be doing an unboxing, potentially a teardown, and we're going to be racking this unit into the server cabinet. So you have your basic MikroTik cardboard box. I mean, the presentation is not going to be too fancy. I mean, their switches are an excellent value. Like I said, that's why people eat them up. These are selling like hotcakes. So you have your bag that has your rack ears, which we're going to need because we're going to rack it. And did they include cage nuts? I don't think they did. Come on, MikroTik. You have your power adapter, and it is the American one, which is important because this switch apparently takes a DC adapter. So you definitely want to make sure that you get the right adapter for your country. I'm in the United States, so I need a North American adapter, and I do have a North American one, which is good. So already that's a con of this switch, is it doesn't have a typical jack in the back. You're dealing with a DC adapter, and actually one that is branded full power. It's a 24 volt DC at 1.2 amps. And of course, auto sensing 100, 240 volts, 50 to 60 hertz. But it's a model SAW30-240-1200U. And it's a full power. So actually what I would do is I would buy another one of these adapters, or one that has the same specifications. And it's a minus dot plus orientation on the DC plug. I'd buy another one of these just in case this ever fails. Okay? I don't think it will fail, but just in case, if you're installing this for a business, or you're doing this in enterprise, you better have some spares on hand. I'll tell you that much right now. Okay? So it has a DC. Now this is just the management switch. That's what I'm going to use it for. So I'm just nitpicking, okay? But switches, I like to see, the power supply built in. You have a standardized jack in the back, okay? But I have to be objective. I don't want to be biased. If I see something I don't like, if I see a con, I'm going to call it out on my channel. I don't sugarcoat shit. I'm not like other YouTubers. I tell you straight up, that's fucking bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And that is bullshit that this switch uses a DC adapter, okay? But like I said, is it going to fail? Probably not, okay? If it does, well, I just lose access to my management network, you know what I'm saying? It's no big deal. The production network's still running, you know what I'm saying? But I will definitely look into probably getting at least another one of these on deck, so I have one. And you could probably buy them on eBay, or maybe even the store that I buy my MikroTik switches, they might have that, and you can buy it separately. And if you can, I'm definitely going to have another one on deck. And actually, I am going to label this with this switch's model number, so I know, hey, this DC adapter goes to this switch. That's a good thing. You want to have a label maker, and you want to label all any DC adapters you have. You want to label them. So I will be labeling this, and so I know, hey, that goes for this. And when I get a new one, I will label that one as well. So there it is unboxed. On the front, just your typical, says MikroTik Cloud Switch Series, all white. So I'll go ahead and adjust the camera angle so we can take a look at the front. Okay guys, so here is a view from the front. Hope it's in focus all right. So it says MikroTik, you got your power, you got reset, which is recessed, which is nice. That's actually better than my fiber switch, my SFP Plus switch, where it's just a button you can accidentally press. This one's recessed, so you have to have like a paperclip or something. I like that. Then you have USR, and then you have all your ports, and they don't have the LEDs, the link status, and link activity lights on the actual jacks. They have them all down here, and they're numbered. So 1 is bottom, 2 is top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is a 24 port switch, not 16. So actually that's better. And that's actually a good thing because this is a 24U rack I have. So technically every single thing in the rack could have a management interface, right? So 24U, 24 port management switch, right? So there we go. So you got 24 gigabit Ethernet ports, which that's fine for a management interface. Fine. I mean, most you're going to do is you're going to have a console. You might be sending an ISO or image or whatever to your iDRAC or your ILO, but 1 gig is going to be plenty of throughput to transfer an ISO, okay? So there's no issues. It doesn't have to be 10 gig or 40 gig or anything crazy. So just a basic racks, 24 port gigabit rack switch, you know what I'm saying? And this was for a good price. If I would have got Cisco or something like that, I mean, I'd be paying thousands of dollars, but I saved quite a bit. Now, this will accept PoE in, so you could power it from PoE if you wanted to. You could do that with in-rack if you wanted to and avoid having to run a power adapter. So I could, when I have my PoE switch, I could power this from the PoE switch if I wanted to do it like that. But then that would link to 2 networks. Unless I just put them on a separate VLAN and just use the PoE switch, just as power alone, or you can use a PoE injector, but at that point you might as well use a DC adapter. But this does have PoE in, so that's another alternative way of powering it. Kind of weird, given this is going to be in a rack. I could see like remote desktop switches that are going to be in rooms or whatever, PoE, power them or whatever, but a rack switch, But hey, it's a feature, so it's not a con, it's a feature. Now you have 2 SFP Plus cages, which is nice. So this can be your uplink to your other networks, stuff like that. These are usually going to be your trunk connectors. So these are 10 gigs. So I can connect this via SFP Plus to my pfSense router because it's going to have multiple SFP Plus interfaces. I'm going to be throwing an SFP Plus card in my pfSense router, and I might as well link it via SFP, right? I mean, if it's there, yeah, we're going to link this. This is going to be linked at 10 gig to my pfSense router. Okay, and of course it's going to be segmented. And this will not really necessarily need, this network won't necessarily need to talk to internet, but I might allow it so it can pull firmware updates, stuff like that, because some devices, they will try to pull firmware updates and stuff via that management interface. So I might as well have that available. But anyway, so there's the front of it. And like I said, SFP, I think I showed you guys when I did my fiber switch. Like here is a Cisco 10 gig senior, so for short range. And MikroTik switches, they will accept any module you throw out. So that's a good thing. Whereas if you're dealing with Cisco or Juniper or something like that, they're more finicky. But this would go just like this. And he's only going one way. I mean, of course, you got to be straight on it. Hold on. So this is the wrong way. And if you feel it's not going down all the way, don't push it in. You're going to end up busting your connector off your freaking switch. So you flip it around, and they go in just like that. So I can get another one here. Another Cisco 10 gig senior. It doesn't really matter. I have an HP 10 gig senior. And these will accept anything you throw at them. That's the wrong way. And since it's going to be in rack communicating to the pfSense router, I'm going to just use a DAC cable, a direct attached copper. But those are SFP modules. So I'll give you guys a close-up so you guys can see what SFP modules look like. So there's a close-up. You see SFP Plus. And of course, these are fiber optic modules, so you'll have a fiber optic cable plugged into them. Okay? And these have little latches to where you pull the latch down and it pulls the SFP module out like that. Okay? That's how SFP works. And SFP stands for Small Form Pluggable. Okay? And SFP is superior to Ethernet. And what I mean by Ethernet is I'm talking about RJ45. I'm not talking about the protocol, because we know SFP, in this case, is still talking Ethernet, because Ethernet is a protocol, not technically a medium. But anyway, I digress. So I'll give you guys a close-up of the front. Like I said, you guys can see there's the light indicators. These look like very, they kind of look very basic looking, don't they? But still, it's a clean finish. It's a clean look. But that's what the front looks like, guys. And on the end there, it looks like it's starting to get out of focus. So I'll just lock focus like that. And there you go. That's what the front looks like. We will be popping the hood on this, because why not, right? So I'm just going to pan around. There's your two SFP modules, or SFP Plus cages, I mean. And they're SFP Plus, they're not SFP. SFP would be 1 gig. These are 10 gig ports, which is pretty nice. And there is the model, which, you know, you're never going to remember that, right? Before I pop the hood, I should, of course, go ahead and show you the sides and the back of the unit. How's that sound? Now, since this is a very basic switch, you know, it's just a 24-port, you know, gigabit Ethernet switch. Doesn't have a whole lot going on. It's not very deep at all. So I'd say that's like a foot deep, maybe a little bit shy of a foot. I'd probably say that's like 8 inches. So not very deep at all. Very, very lightweight. On the back, you can see we have a slot for a fan. It actually looks like there's no fan there. It just looks like this is a chassis that can have a fan installed. Now I wonder if the board in here has a fan header, so if you wanted to add a fan, you could. But really, are you going to need a fan on a 24-port gigabit Ethernet switch? No. But you got plenty of ventilation in the back, which is good. And you got your DC jack over there, you know, that shitty DC jack. And it does show, oh, right here, it can support 10 to 28 volts minus dot plus. So actually, any DC adapter you have laying around that's 10 or more volts, that's minus dot plus, it will take. So actually, that's not that bad. Okay, they're not specific about it. Okay, and then they got some cable management, so you can put the cable there. And that's actually nice, because these DC jacks, they can easily fall out. You know, the cable can easily pull out the back. So you got some tension relief right there to prevent that from happening. Not that bad. I still wish they would have had, you know, a built-in power supply and would have a jack on the back. You can see right here, this chassis looks like that would be a slot for that. So this chassis may be used for different models. But yeah. And you got your 3 screws to take the hood off, which we will take the hood off on this unit, because why not? And you do have a grounding tab there for if you need it to be grounded for whatever reason. But here's the thing, is this is going to be mounted to the rack via metal rack gears, and the entire rack enclosure is grounded to utility ground. So it's kind of unnecessary. On the side, you know, just basic thing again, no vents on the side. And of course you have your 4 screws here for your rack ears. And before we put the rack ears on, we're going to pop the hood on it. So like the last MikroTik switch, I believe this is going to use a Phillips 1. So there's an individual screw on both sides, and then I believe there's 3 in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this and pop the hood. Well, guys, look at that. It's got a beefy heatsink on it, I'll give it that. But most of the chassis is pretty empty. And there is indeed no fan in there. Not like it needs it. Does this have a fan header on it, though? Let's take a look. And it does not. It does not. It's got a big beefy heatsink. You got quite a few caps in there. What brand are the caps? Looks like Suscon. All the caps are Suscon caps. Now, will these caps fail? I don't know. I don't think so. Got your DC jack. Very basic. Got another heatsink on there. I believe this is a Marvell system on chip. But I'll go ahead and get you guys zoomed in on there. So you see over here, we have our SFP cages. Maybe you guys can see a little better now. See there, you got your 2 SFP Plus cages. And basically, you just got your big switching. Yep, and these are, looks like a letter H with a inside a B, so HB, whatever that means. But yeah, nothing to it, just a big heat sink there, a small heat sink. This unit was manufactured 2022, January 16th of 2022. So this is actually a newer unit. This hasn't been sitting in my basement as long as my fiber switch. But this, like I said, this is going to be my my management switch. So you don't need anything too fancy for your management switch. Just 24 port gigabit, good to go. So go ahead and I'll put the hood back on her, and we'll install the rack ears and install her into the server rack. Sound cool? So there we go. The top hood is back installed. And you guys, have you guys noticed something about this switch? Huh? Let's take a look at the front again. You notice something? No RJ45 serial console and no management port. So our management switch doesn't have a management interface. So this is just your bog standard basic layer 2 switch. And that's why it's pretty basic inside, pretty slim. Now, does this actually have a web GUI that binds on any of these Ethernet ports or all of them? I don't know. There might be a management interface bridged on it. I don't know. We'd have to bind into MikroTik's subnet here and see. I'm trying to look at the manual and see if it says anything about it, but the manual I cannot make out worth a shit. So, oh, English right here. Models 260GS can only be accessed using a web browser. Operating system SWOS. So it looks like it has SwitchOS on it. Yep. So it binds on 192.168.88.1. There is no password. By default, username is admin. So this does have a web interface. Just doesn't have a dedicated port for it, which is plenty fine because it's going to be connected to the pfSense router and it's going to be isolated on its own network. Now, since it's running SwitchOS, hopefully we should be able to give this its own unique IP address and everything. So I'll go ahead and install the rack ears, and we'll go ahead and get this thing racked. Okay, let's go ahead and install the rack ears. These are very, very tiny screws. I believe you're going to use a Phillips one. Mostly that's what you use on these MikroTik switches. So we got our rack ears right here. And of course, in typical MikroTik fashion, it didn't include cage nuts or cage screws. But thankfully, I got some that were included with my server cabinet. There is one rack ear installed in my good old trusty Pick Quick. I don't need no LTT screwdriver, although I do have one coming soon. There we go. Second rack ear is installed. So now we are going to go ahead and rack this into the server cabinet. Okay, so here's the server cabinet. I'm going to go ahead and open it. There we go. We see we already have our fiber switch racked up. So what we're going to do is before you put stuff in your server rack, you want to make sure you map everything out and know where you're going to put everything. That's very important. So our management switch is going to be in rack unit 16. Now this is a 1U unit. Like I said, most networking gear is only 1U. So slot number 16 is our management switch. Cool. And you're going to need to have cage nuts and cage screws, which MikroTik did not provide, but however, Triplite gave me plenty of them. Now there are different ratings for cage nuts and rack screws. Some can handle heavier loads, such as really big, heavy 4U servers and UPS units, stuff like that. You ain't gonna have to worry about the rating of the screws for any of these MikroTik switches. They weigh next to nothing. I mean, most networking gear doesn't weigh a whole lot. MikroTik switches weigh like next to nothing. It's like mounting a piece of paper. So we ain't gonna have to worry, just as long as she's screwed in there. So we're gonna go ahead and get her racked up. Okay, so the first thing you gotta do is you gotta install the cage nuts. These will go left to right orientation, and like I said, we're gonna put in slot 16. I don't know how well you saw that on camera, but you're gonna have 3 square holes for each rack unit. So it's going to be the bottom and top ones for these MikroTiks. Some devices require the center mounting hole, but this one doesn't. So we got our cage nuts installed. And they just pinch in there. Some are a lot harder than others, like Ubiquity's cage nuts are a pain in the ass. But the ones that are included with Trip Light are pretty self-explanatory. Okay, we also have washers and stuff, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and place the switch. Before I do that, I want to switch out my Pickwick to a Phillips 2, just to be prepared. Is that the right bit? That's the right driver. I gotta love the Pickwick. I do have a Linus Tech Tips screwdriver coming. I was part of Wave 1, but I think the Pickwick's going to win. I really like the Pickwick's multi-bit design. I think it's superior. But anyway, I digress. Oh, I got my screws and washers ready. Now you generally want to have a second person helping you out, but this switch is very lightweight. This one's actually easier to install. It's a bog standard switch. Just thumb tighten it for now. Right? Don't tighten it all the way, because you have to line it up on both sides. There's a plastic washer you place in between the screw and the rack ear to help prevent your unit that you're installing from getting scratched. Okay, I'm gonna hold it up and I'm gonna tighten these down now. Nothing too crazy, just snug enough. You don't want to be breaking the plastic washer, and that's in there. Okay, so the management switch has been successfully installed. You may be wondering, why is there that big gap? Well, 19 is going to be a cable management, 18 is going to be the PoE switch, 17 is going to be another cable management. Pretty neat, right? And 21 is going to be cable management, and then 22 is going to be the pfSense router. So we're getting there. We got two MikroTik switches installed. So there's our management interface. This is going to interface via SFP up to the pfSense router. Okay, and we'll go through the cable management, and it'll be nice and clean and everything. It's a work in progress, but we're slowly getting there. Anyway, guys, that concludes it for now. Thanks for watching.